Hi, I'm Father Anthony Hannon from In Viam Pacis, and this is to prepare his way. In this video, I'd like to address whether the coronavirus COVID-19 is a chastisement from God or not. And before I go there, I'd like to just preface it by saying that, there's a lot of speculation going on about the COVID-19. And just like a lot of other issues, I think there's room for debate. And my opinion may not be the correct one in the end. But I think it is. But that's the way it is. And I don't think that, I think a mature Catholic ought to be writing other Catholics off and resorting to name calling if we have a different opinion on something like that, especially when it comes to speculation. I'm still a skeptic. I'm a Catholic priest and I'm a skeptic. You can check that video out if you want. But I believe everything that the Church teaches and presents to us as dogmas, as articles of the faith. And there are many other things that are open for either debate or for differing opinions. I remain a skeptic on man-made catastrophic climate change, and that's not an article of faith. When you're asked to become Catholic, or you want to become Catholic if you're an adult, or I guess over the age of 7, they don't ask you if you believe in man-made catastrophic climate change. It's not part of the deal. Similarly, the Church does not require anyone to believe in a certain age of the earth. So, there you go. Some things it's okay to disagree on. When I was studying philosophy, one of the things that I learned was that it's okay to suspend judgment on some things as well. So I think that's also a valid position. Sometimes when I listen to AM radio talk shows, at least in the past when I was listening to those a lot, it was almost as though people formed an opinion, dug their heels in, and then just phoned in. And didn't seem to be very logical, or seemed to be quite superficial, we could put it like that. And it's okay to suspend judgment. That's all right. Now, before I get into that, about the COVID-19, whether this is a chastisement or not, I'd like to also do this one kind of public service announcement, we could call it. Housekeeping maybe could be another way of putting it. But a lot of viewers are asking me to live stream when I offer the Mass. And I can't do that. It's the upload speed here at In Viam Pacis is 0.83 megabytes per second. And that's just way too slow of an upload to do a live stream. Could I record a Mass? Yeah, I guess I could. But, even with that upload speed, it does take a long time. And I certainly couldn't do that every day. I am thinking about whether I'm going to do that or not. But, quite frankly, I offer the Mass. First of all, I offer the Mass in English. I offer the 2011 Mass. So I'll probably lose like half the viewers because so many people who watch my videos are kind of traditional Latin Mass only people. And, that's fine if you want to be that. And if you want to write me off because I don't know Latin and I wasn't trained in the seminary to do the 1962 Mass, that's, totally up to you. But that's one thing. So a lot of people wouldn't watch it just because it's not the 1962 Mass. And the other thing is I offer the Mass ad orientem. And I find that very, very beneficial for me as a priest because I don't have to worry about the expression on my face. And when I offer the Mass, and usually when there are other members of the church militant at my masses, they also find that beneficial for the most part. At the parish that I was at for 10 years, the last 5 years I offered the Mass ad orientem, and then last year when I was filling in or taking over 2 parishes for just a couple months until they could find a full-time pastor, within a few weeks I introduced the ad orientem Mass, and it went over very well as well. But for watching on a video, I'm not dramatic. You're not going to see much. I don't think I'm that expressive. I'm certainly not a singer. I mean, I will sing and chant. Usually at the end of my masses, I sing "Holy God, we praise Thy name" and "Immaculate Mary." But I don't have a voice for entertainment. So yeah. So and then the other thing is just if I record a mass, just knowing myself, I'm probably going to be a little bit self-conscious, and I really, really want to just concentrate on praying. So anyway. So there you have it. I know you've got lots of other priests offering masses online, and so I think right now the best I can do is do those little 30-second videos, and this is when I'm offering the Mass. And that has been helpful for me, by the way, because I know that there's, I don't know, maybe a half a dozen or a dozen of you who are praying right there with me. And I love it when at the end of the video, I say, pray, brethren, that my sacrifice and yours. And then someone responds, may the sacrifice at your hands, may the Lord accept the sacrifice at your hands. I really love that. So that's what I usually do. If someone has given a stipend for a Mass, a particular intention, I'll usually text or email them just before I offer the Mass, and then after the Mass, I'll send them another text saying, "Go in peace, Reatimus est," and usually they'll respond, "Thanks be to God," or "Deo gratias." So that's just a little connection that I like. Okay, so here we go. Is the COVID-19 virus, is this a chastisement from God? And I know there's a lot of great Catholics who are, serious and everything, and they're quite adamant that this is a chastisement from God. And I'm going to say I am quite certain that it is not a chastisement from God. Okay, why do I say that? Well, first of all, because God is all-powerful. I mean, if he's going to send us a chastisement, and a chastisement, of course, he's done this in the past, it's a loving act. I believe that God can and does give his people chastisements. This is an act of charity and justice and all of that rolled up into one. So please, when I've been reading certain articles, people like saying, if you don't think it's a chastisement, then you don't believe that God is like that. It's like, what? No. Please. Anyway, don't insult me, okay? Don't insult. I don't know. Maybe other people are saying that, but that's not the way I see it. But because God is all powerful, to me, sending a cold virus that may or may not be that different than a regular cold or flu, that may or may not be that more contagious, that may or may not be that more lethal. To me, the death numbers are not justifying that. In Canada, as of today, which is April the 1st, 101 deaths out of a population of 37.59 million. Of course, that number is going to go up, but there's a lot of irregularities in terms of around the world, in terms of recording those deaths, and is it just dying with the virus or dying from it? What are the other other underlying factors in terms of people's health that are dying from it? So yeah, and it's basically taking out people who have weakened immune systems that, from the way I see it anyway, not being a doctor, but the way I look at the numbers, it looks as though these are people who the next cold or flu that they're going to get, they're probably not going to survive. And that's a very, very sad thing. But maybe, people don't realize how many people die every day in each country and around the world. There's a lot. And so 101 deaths since, when was the first case in Canada? I think it was January the 24th. So January 24th, February, March, over 2 months, and there's 101 deaths in the whole country. Nah, God is more powerful than that. And I think he would be a lot more clear if he's sending us a chastisement. So that's the number one reason. The other thing is because I think the real problem, the real crisis of the COVID-19 is the reaction. I think overreaction. I know I'm not alone in that. At the same time, I know I've spoken to friends and different people who, although I'm trying to calm them down, when they settle them down, so to speak, when I try to point out some of the things that I'm sure you're all familiar with, just go to Frank Walker's site or Brother Alex's from Rome.info or Anne Barnhart, and you'll see some of the arguments, some of the you know great scientists in the world as well, who are taking the position that this is being blown out of proportion, and that the kind of what do they call it, social distancing or physical distancing that is being employed, and lockdowns and everything like that, that the damage to the economy is going to kill more people, and that's what I think. And I'm really my heart does go out to those who have high anxiety in the best of times. And this is just not good. Now, I would like to try to calm people down, but speaking to friends, I try to calm them down, and the exact opposite. Kind of reminds me of that book. What was the fellow's name? John something or other. Anyway, he wrote a book, back in the early 90s or something like that, called Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And the basic thesis of that book is that men show confidence to other men by saying, don't worry about it, you can handle it, kind of minimizing it. And this generally gives us guys a lot of confidence. But then when we try to communicate that way with women, they say you're minimizing it. So John Gray, that was his name. And his theory is that women typically, not always exceptions, like to talk out the problems, talk about it, ask how you feel about that. That must have made you feel such and such, etc., etc. And for a guy, that's like, what? That we don't want that. But for women, that's what they want. So John Gray was trying to encourage men to understand women better, and women to understand men better, and for women to understand why guys need some space, etc. So, since I think anyway, the COVID-19, the main crisis is actually the government reaction, and then the church reaction, kind of adding to the panic. To me, that means it's not in the level of truth. In the worst case, it's a level of deceit, but certainly it's not real to me. So. Since that's the way I look at it, it can't be a chastisement from God, because God would have nothing to do with deceit. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So that's why I say it's not a chastisement from God. Now, I think that there could be something coming around the corner, and for that. So let me just allow me to give a little bit of speculation of what I think is going on, because if the deaths are not justifying, all the lockdowns and everything like this, what is going on? Because all the governments around the world seem to be kind of on this bandwagon. So anyway, so what could be done? Well, it seems to be there's an expansion of health services, building of hospitals in some countries. It's certainly expanding, freeing up beds, and the manufacturing and procuring of face masks are basically dust masks. These are the same masks that I bought from Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever, so that I could do drywall, sand drywall. And so these are dust masks. And then ventilators. Why do we need so many ventilators? So anyway, let me just put my tinfoil hat on here for a second. There we go. How's that look? Tinfoil hat time. Is it possible that some, military intel has kind of spread around the world that that some terrorist groups are going to use or have access to bioweapons, especially when it comes to viruses. Is it possible? And then maybe each country has been looking and saying, are they prepared for that? Are people prepared for that? So I think that's maybe my best shot at my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. And then I have another one, and this would be a chastisement from God. What if, remember I got the tinfoil hat on, okay? What if NASA, and here I'm going to lose a lot of subscribers who are flat earth people, so I'm sorry about that. But maybe not, maybe they figured another way. What if NASA has discovered that there's a huge asteroid that is on its way to Earth, and that pieces are breaking off, and they're so big that there's going to be huge impact, perhaps all around the world, of meteorites, eh? So big that obviously anywhere they're impacted, if they go through a building, they're going to kill people. There can be a lot of injuries. Maybe earthquakes are going to happen. Maybe it's going to trigger a whole bunch of volcanoes. Maybe we'll get ash all over the world, the 3 nights of darkness or 3 days of darkness or whatever. And maybe we're going to need dust masks. And maybe, the government has our best interest at heart, and they just want the safest place is to be in your house. When I was growing up, when I was a kid, there was a lot of talk about nuclear bomb shelters. Well, maybe we don't need that anymore, but just stay in your house and have some dust masks available. And then some people close to impact, there'll be a lot of injuries, a lot of hospitalizations. They're going to need a lot of ventilators and stuff like that. And if that happened, I would say that would be a chastisement from God. That would be on the level that I would say, yeah, God's trying to wake us up. Now, look, we all should be waking up. We all have, let me take this off because this is serious. Put the serious hunter cap back on. We all need to repent from sins. We should be doing that. And you know what? If what's happening now is, causing people to think about their own mortality, then that's good. That's good. And anyone who knows me, and everywhere I go in the parishes, they would get sick and tired of me telling people to get to confession, because you never know when your last breath will be. Okay, so there you go. That's my take on it all. And how long is this video? Kind of long. It's going to take me a few hours to upload this onto YouTube. See, that's why I don't, tape my masses. It's going to take forever to upload whenever I do it. Okay, I'll take my hat off. We'll make all this nice and official. May Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. In Viam Pacis, into the way of peace. The truth will set us free.